Farmweek is a production of the Mississippi State University Extension Service.
Today on Farmweek, the Congress passes free trade agreements with 3 countries. Agriculture is seen by many as a beneficiary.
2 congressmen proposed tying the level of ethanol in gasoline to the size of corn stalks.
In Southern Gardening, we'll have a preview of next week's Fall Flower and Garden Fest at Crystal Springs, Mississippi.
In the markets, corn supplies may not be as tight as many once believed. While in the beef sector, the pace of herd liquidation this year raises questions about the future.
In the feature segment, bringing farm produce to the big city, Gotham City. See how an 8th-generation Vermont farm is adopting new methods to stay in business.
The conventional CSA, they establish one drop-off location, and you don't necessarily know what you're going to get. You're just going to get a box of stuff every week, whether you're in town or not, whether you want the food or not, and you get that box of stuff. We decided to completely change that model around. New Yorkers are busy, they travel in the summertime, so we actually let you pick your order specifically. You get our entire inventory. You don't have to order every week unless you want vegetables and fruits and stuff every single week.
Good day, everyone. I'm Leighton Spann.
And I'm Artis Ford. Welcome to Farm Week.
The U.S. Congress has passed 3 new trade agreements in a remarkable show of bipartisanship between Republicans and President Obama.
Leighton, the 3 countries involved are Colombia, Panama, and South Korea. Agricultural leaders have generally been supportive of the agreements. Before the FTAs passed, the Delta Farm Press had several comments from U.S. Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack. Vilsack said the Colombia agreement should greatly improve U.S. ag production access. He said in 2010 the U.S. did $832 million in agricultural goods trading with Colombia. Vilsack looked for that to climb several $100 million. He also looked for the same with the Panama FTA. He said the U.S. did $450 million in agricultural sales with Panama last year. Vilsack looked for that to climb several $100 million. Vilsack said the South Korean FTA would immediately eliminate duties on a majority of U.S. farm products. The deal, however, does not include U.S. rice.
A lot of stir was created late last week when a Virginia congressman and one from California proposed a law that could change the nation's ethanol mandate. The bill would lower the amount of ethanol in gasoline when corn stocks are low. Many see this as helping those who raise livestock and must compete with ethanol plants to buy corn. Market to Market's Mark Pearson reports.
The current renewable fuel standard, or RFS, requires U.S. motorists to power their cars with 36 billion gallons of alternative fuels by 2022. Ethanol from corn would comprise nearly a third of the total, with the rest being covered by biodiesel, cellulosic ethanol, and other so-called advanced biofuels, including ethanol derived from algae. But the RFS policy immediately drew criticism from groups as diverse as the Grocery Manufacturers Association and the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. Concerns range from greater demand for corn would lead to higher food and feed prices to the lament that sensitive ground would be torn up to grow food because land had been diverted for fuel production. 2 measures were introduced to even remove or reduce the effect of the renewable fuel standard. The first, introduced by Representative Bob Goodlatte, a Republican from Virginia, who represents, among other constituents, turkey and poultry producers, calls for the immediate removal of the federal fuels mandate. While Representative Goodlatte believes the renewable fuel standard should be totally eliminated, he also acknowledged there may not be the political will in Congress to make the change. With that in mind, he joined with Representative Jim Costa, a Democrat from California and a longtime supporter of alternative fuels, to introduce the Renewable Fuel Flexibility Act. The Goodlatte-Costa plan reduces the amount of ethanol required in U.S. fuel when corn supplies are tight. According to the congressman, the current stocks-to-use ratio would have triggered a 25% reduction in the renewable fuels mandate. The legislation received support from the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, the American Meat Institute, and the Grocery Manufacturers Association. But the National Corn Growers Association, or NCGA, and the Renewable Fuels Association were quick to condemn the legislation. Officials with the NCGA said the measure would jeopardize progress already made by the ethanol industry and potentially cost jobs and reduce economic opportunity throughout rural America. And RFA officials said Congress should maintain the integrity of the RFS to help drive job creation and wean America from its addiction to foreign oil. The two measures were introduced a day after the National Research Council issued a comprehensive report on the renewable fuel standard commissioned by Congress. The study concluded that without government support, the biofuels industry would be unable to meet its 36 billion gallon fuel mandate by 2022. It also revealed that corn grain ethanol and, to a lesser extent, soybean biodiesel are closer to being competitive with fossil fuels, particularly when combined with tax credit and encouraged by RFS. According to the report, corn-based ethanol has contributed to pushing up the price for agricultural commodities, food, and livestock feed. But the authors said the greater use of distillers' dried grains in animal feed had to some extent muted the unfavorable effects on the livestock industry. The white paper also concluded cellulosic ethanol, which makes up nearly 2/3 of the total alternative fuels requirement, would not become viable commercially without rapid technological advancements, federal subsidies, strict adherence to RFS fuel mandates, and an increase in taxes on petroleum. The report was immediately blasted by everyone from Obama administration representatives to biofuels trade associations. USDA Secretary Don Vilsack said the report was inaccurate and based on old data. RFA officials pointed out the article ignores increasing global energy demand and the fact ethanol is displacing the need for what it called marginal fuels like Canadian tar sands.
Well, it's the largest public field day for gardening in Mississippi and possibly the South. In this week's Southern Gardening segment, Extension horticulturist Dr. Gary Bachman gives us a preview of the Fall Flower and Garden Fest at Mississippi State University's Truck Crops Experiment Station in Crystal Springs.
What is one of the best free horticulture field days in Mississippi and the Southeast? Of course, the answer is the Fall Flower and Garden Festival at MSU's Truck Crops Branch Station in Crystal Springs. Whether you're a garden novice or master gardener, you need to be here Friday and Saturday, October 21st and 22nd for the Fall Flower and Garden Fest. There will be fun for the entire family. The event normally attracts over 6,000 visitors to see the latest in vegetables, herbs, and flowers. You'll be able to see a great selection of tough roses, ornamental grasses, tropical plants, and of course, fall vegetables and herbs. There are also plenty of colorful new plants to see. You can't beat the variety available in the ornamental sweet potatoes. Imagine the colorful ground cover you could have in your landscape. The tropical garden with the giant banana plants is a visitor favorite every year. There are numerous educational activities as well. There will be non-stop seminars and exhibits. And across the lake, vendors will be selling hot new plants perfect for fall planting. And if you have a gardening question or garden-related problem, look for the Mississippi State University experts wearing the vest. Come on out, we look forward to meeting you. I'll be there, and so will a lot of other horticulturists. So remember, put the Fall Flower and Garden Festival, October 21st and 22nd on your gardening calendar. I'm Gary Bachman for Southern Gardening.
Now, we will have links to the Facebook page and the website of the Fall Flower and Garden Fest on our website, farmweek.msucares.com. You'll find maps to guide you to the MSU Truck Crops Branch Experiment Station. Just go to our website or Facebook page and we'll get you linked up. In the feature segment today, we'll visit a Vermont farm that uses a CSA form of administration, but it uses a truck and its website to be flexible to its customers. Time now for the Markets with Leighton. And Leighton, you say the government says that global supplies of corn are on the increase.
That's right, Artis. We'll be talking about those new monthly projections in just a moment. Also in the markets this week, a bearish forecast for cotton. A protest briefly disrupts Alabama poultry processing, as fund managers see cattle as a bright spot. The new monthly crop numbers from the USDA were released Tuesday morning, the 12th. Extension Ag economist John Michael Riley says the government added some bushels to the estimated corn ending stocks. He discussed the report's potential impact for both corn and soybean marketing with me on Thursday morning. John Michael, you described the latest numbers as largely uneventful, but still a little bit of a headline out of the corn sector, right?
Well, it always gets a headline whenever you see a bump in ending stocks like we saw with this most recent report compared to the report in September. Ending stocks, 866 million bushels of corn there expected to be left over at the end of this marketing year. Again, it was uneventful mainly because that was largely expected due to the fact that September 30th, USDA released their quarterly grain stocks report, and that report found a lot more corn in the bins than was expected. Just, you know, the high prices have kind of rationed demand. You know, feed users are trying to go other routes other than corn, and that kind of showed up in the grain stocks report, and that was largely reflected in the most recent supply and demand report that was released just yesterday.
So anybody following USDA numbers in the last month kind of had a pretty good idea of what this report would say.
They kind of knew what was coming down the pike again, but the ending stocks number was still larger than the pre-report estimate of 806 million bushels, so it was a bit of a bullish number in that regard, but for the most part, the large jump from last month's WASDE to this month's WASDE wasn't as big a surprise as you know, if you're not following the reports.
And for livestock feeders, the news not necessarily good if they're concerned about cost of feed.
Well, it doesn't erase the fact that we are still dealing with limited supplies of corn throughout the rest of the marketing year. That's still evident in the market.
All right, let's switch to soybeans now because that's an important topic, and there were some good numbers there. Right,
we did. That was probably one of the bigger surprises if you think about the two. Ending stocks of 160 million bushels. The trade was looking for somewhere in the neighborhood of 170 to 180 million bushels of ending stocks for soybeans, and you know that just again largely reflective of that grain stocks report. Apparently, you know, we're still seeing a lot of soybeans move go overseas globally. Domestic demand is still kind of there for the most part, so that number was a bit more of a surprise when you think about compare the two.
And we're about 24 hours out now from the release as we record this. What's the market reaction kind of been so far?
Well, at the close of yesterday, almost no reaction to the corn and soybean market. You know, soybeans were up a couple of cents, corn was down a couple of cents, again, because it was mostly expected. Today, mostly down across for both of those, just dealing with some other news entering the market.
Meanwhile, cotton futures tumbled Wednesday in reaction to those new crop reports. DTN says that prices were pressured by a surprising but slight gain in U.S. production, as well as bearish increases in domestic and world cotton ending stocks. Analysts had said the cotton market was vulnerable to a sell-off as report day approached. Now, Mississippi and Alabama were among the handful of states where the government projected slightly higher production. The new report described cotton demand as edgy due to continued uncertainty about the world economy. Forest Products is the source for our trivia quiz on Farm Week this week. What state produces the most plywood in this country? Is the answer Mississippi, Arkansas, Idaho, or Oregon? The answer is coming up before the end of the markets.
We're going to pause for a short break on Farm Week. Coming up, we'll look at the calendar in the second part of the markets. Leighton Spann will have the cattle analysis, and there could be a bright spot ahead. In the feature segment today, Holton Farms. It's now being farmed by its 8th generation, but it's relying on innovation to keep going for another generation.
Prepared? I'd better be. After all, paying attention to details is what makes the difference. The more preparation and planning time I invest, the more successful and enjoyable the outcome. For everyone. I know everything can't be perfect. I don't expect it to be, but the time and effort I spent pays off when the unexpected happens. So yes, I prepared for my marriage until death do us part. Prepare for your marriage.
Before we get back to the markets, let's look at the Farm Week calendar. A beginner's workshop on the use of forest herbicides takes place Tuesday, October 25th from 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. The location is KK's Deli on Grand Boulevard in Greenwood, Mississippi. There's no charge and supper will be provided. You need to register, however, by October 21st. No walk-ins, please. Call the LaFleur County Extension Service office to reserve a spot. A hardwood management field tour is being offered on 2 days. Choose either October 28th or November 3rd. The location is the Malmason Wildlife Management Area off Highway 7 near Holcomb, Mississippi. Runs from 9 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. Registration is free, and that includes a brown bag lunch. There are only 15 slots available, though, either day, so you must register ahead of time with the forestry office of the Mississippi State University Extension Service. Go to our Farm Week website at farmweek.msucares.com for information on these and other events. Now it's time for this week's Farm Week Snapshot.
In neighboring Alabama, a handful of poultry plants reportedly either closed or curtailed production on Wednesday of this week. Media reports indicate Alabama's Hispanic community was encouraged to boycott work to protest that state's immigration law. The Associated Press says it counted a half-dozen poultry facilities in Alabama that closed or limited production for the day on Wednesday because of the protest. Alabama's immigration law is currently being challenged in federal court. Well, is the beef sector a bright spot? Analyst Sue Martin says that some fund managers are apparently viewing cattle that way. And in an interview on Market to Market recently, Martin also noted that cow slaughter is still running well ahead of a year ago and making history.
Cow slaughter is probably, I want to say the number of cows going, both beef and dairy, going to slaughter is probably second largest since 1984. And at some point, this is going to come back to haunt us. The key is, and I think this is what's been helping us hold the cattle market together, is the fact that, one, the funds have been looking at it as a bright spot, but numbers worldwide have been really down in the beef industry, and our export market's been good, and the dollar has a major thing to play. If we rally this dollar very aggressively, I bet Australia would just love to ship us some beef.
Speaking of shipping, there may be indications that rail traffic is picking up some. Random Lengths Woodwire reports that Class 1 railroads in the United States and Canada pulled over 11,000 rail cars out of sidings and other storage areas in September. This is the largest drawdown of the idled cars since March of this year. The Association of American Railroads reports that industrial carload shipments grew faster in the month of September after the summer slowdown, and that they reached their highest levels of the year in September. Going back to that trivia quiz now, here's a look at this week's answer for you. It's D that is the correct choice. The state of Oregon is the leading plywood producer in the United States.
In the feature segment, community-supported agriculture with a twist. CSAs aren't as numerous in the South. They tend to be located near large population centers. A CSA is funded by its subscribers who pay a local farmer to produce fruits and vegetables that are delivered fresh each week during the growing season. Now today you're going to meet an 8th-generation Vermont farmer who is using the CSA form to keep his farm going, but he's added a truck and a website. Market to Market's Laurel Bauer-Bergmeyer reports.
Among the first settlers of Westminster, Vermont, the Holton family has been farming in New England for over 200 years. Representing the 8th generation, Seth Holton took over the 250-acre farm in 2009 when his parents retired.
It's a learning process. Of course, you grow up around it. You think, oh, this is easy. I know exactly what to do. But when you're actually, running it yourself, you find out that there are a lot of, different things to look at, and it's not as easy as I kind of first thought.
Holton co-owns Holton Farms with family friend George Hornig and his cousin Jurian Schwartz.
That kind of legacy is just amazing, and if we can show that agriculture is something that young people can do and make money at, that it's not a dying profession, having a new endeavor, an exciting endeavor that I can get behind in so many ways, that gives me a real reason to have to go up there a lot. And a reason to be a steward of my family's farm that I grew up on, that has been in the family for generations.
Holton Farms produces a diverse selection of agricultural products, sold at farmers markets, farm stands, and at restaurants and specialty grocers. But Holton and Schwartz agree the overall vision of the family business is to bring fresh food to neighborhoods where healthy options can be hard to find.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good, thanks. I was just tuning out to see what you guys were about.
Yep, so we're a mobile
In 2010, this vision led to the creation of what they call the Holton Farm Truck, a unique hybrid of community-supported agriculture, or CSA, green market, fresh direct, and food truck concepts. The Holton Farm Truck brings just-picked produce from Vermont to New York City. The 4-hour trip is made multiple times a week to 60-plus drop-off locations throughout Manhattan, Queens, and Brooklyn. Holton heads the farm operations in Vermont, while Schwartz manages the business side of things in New York City. Rounding out the team are Adam Foreman and Brad Fleming, who run the truck operations.
People love us. People love us. They love the idea. They love the convenience. A lot of times, you know, people just come up and say, "Oh, this is great. You know, such a great idea." And I wish Adam and I could take credit for it. It wasn't our idea, but a lot of our ideas go into it, you know, and we're trying to. It's still a developing thing.
The fact that the farm truck is roving around the 5 boroughs of New York already makes it a unique CSA model. The 29-foot-long specially designed truck is less a delivery vehicle than a farmer's market on wheels. But another way the Holton Farm Truck stands out from other CSAs is its CSA Select membership. The innovative concept allows customers to order what they want, when they want, through the Holton Farms website.
The conventional CSA, they establish one drop-off location, and you don't necessarily know what you're going to get. You're just going to get a box of stuff every week, whether you're in town or not, whether you want the food or not, and you know, you get that box of stuff. We decided to completely change that model around. New Yorkers are busy, they travel in the summertime, so we actually let you pick your order specifically. You get our entire inventory. You don't have to order every week unless you want vegetables and fruits and stuff every single week.
CSA memberships range in price from $250 to $1,000 per year. In the future, Holton Farms would like to offer a 20% discount to customers who can demonstrate income-based need, and to allow food stamps for the purchase of fruits and vegetables from the truck. The City of New York's permitting process has made it difficult for the farm truck to sell its produce to non-CSA members.
Here's your stuff.
Fabulous.
Enjoy it.
Thank you
It was
so
very
much.
nice meeting you. Thank you
So
for...
if I walk by next Monday between 5:30 and 7, you guys will be here again?
Yes, ma'am.
And I can
Every week. Yep.
Oh, good.
I originally thought that it was just vegetables in a truck, and I thought, well, I'll pick up something for dinner, why not? And the more I heard about, you know, that it's like an ongoing process and you can order on a regular basis and have fruits and vegetables brought directly to you, I think it was maybe 5 minutes before I signed up.
In its first year, the Holton Farm Truck CSA saw exponential growth in its membership. It went from 30 members in the spring of 2010 to 1,300 members in the summer of 2011. While the membership numbers are impressive, the farm has been dealt several weather-related setbacks. A wet spring delayed harvest for most of the crops. Strong winds blew down the sweet corn later in the season. And by summer's end, Hurricane Irene brought the worst flooding ever to Vermont, destroying the farm's potato crop.
You know, when you're doing this stuff, it's like every single day counts. I mean, you know, it's not like you got a 2-week lag, and normally it's probably not a big deal, but it's a big deal when you're doing vegetables. I mean, it's a lot of money that you end up losing by not having it ready. That's just the nature of the beast, and that's how it works.
In addition to volatile weather, Holton Farms has struggled to make ends meet.
You know, coming up with a totally new model and then trying to project how much cash you're going to need or burn through versus how many sales you're going to have, that's just a very common, you know, problem for any startup. But it's really tough for, you know, a small group like us who, you know, $1,000 for refrigeration a month is a huge bill for us. We don't have a lot of money, so if we make mistakes, we buy things that we don't need or we don't anticipate things, you know, it's a lot scarier. The beauty of this CSA program, though, is that our CSA members are literally funding what we're doing. And, you know, God bless them. They're sticking it out with us.
And it was good to see you again.
You too.
Enjoy the corn. Let me know what you think.
I will. Thanks.
All right, take care.
Despite the season's hurdles, Holton and Schwartz remain optimistic. They want to stay true to the overall mission of the Holton Farm Truck, to serve areas of New York that lack access to farm fresh produce. Holton and Schwartz say they hope to keep the family legacy strong, but in a way that doesn't leave them financially vulnerable.
I think probably most farmers would feel it. You know, you have a sense of responsibility to the farm and to the land, and you know, it's basically my turn, and I have to preserve it and keep it going and run it the best way that I know how to do it. And I haven't really, you know, I haven't figured that out yet. You got to evolve with, you know, changing times, and you know, and then I got to try to pass it on to my kids.
From Market to Market, I'm Laurel Bauer-Bergmeyer.
And you can watch this story again on our Farm Week website. That's farmweek.msucares.com. We'll also have a link to the Holton Farms website and to the Market to Market website, where you can see the story as well as read the script. That's farmweek.msucares.com. And Leighton, I went and looked at the Holton Farms website, and very well done, very colorful, very bold. So if marketing makes it, they'll make it. Well, we are at the end of Farm Week for this week. On our next show, we have a feature story for you, but we can't tell you who it's about. You're going to have to watch.
That's because we'll have the new Mississippi Forestry Association Outstanding Tree Farmer of the Year. The honoree will be revealed this week in Jackson.
Well, in Southern Gardening, find out about Gary Bachman's fall favorites. He'll have a variety of plants that excel in the cooler weather. For the rest of the Farm Week crew, I'm Artis Ford.
And I'm Leighton Spann. Thanks for watching. We'll be back next week.